Welcome to this little fireside chat with two of my favorite people, Leanna Klein, who is the director of FFS Agency, and Rich Khan, who is the founder of Anura.io. And this week, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects and probably a hot topic that everybody has on their mind, and that is affiliate fraud. So I couldn't think of two better people to bring together on this fireside chat than these two. So guys, thank you so much for being on this chat with me.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to jump right in because I want to start with like the scope of fraud in the iGaming industry. Rich, we know from previous chats, iGaming is especially vulnerable to affiliate fraud. We hear it from people that come onto our webinars. We talk about it at affiliate events. Can you set the stage for us? What does affiliate fraud actually look like right now, and why is it so rife in the iGaming industry?
Well, affiliate fraud, regardless of the industry, has a huge percentage of fraudulent traffic just in and of itself. iGaming makes it very attractive to affiliates because the payouts can be high. I'll give you an example. I scanned a network without naming names, and in a very short run, checking a portion of the traffic, they were losing over $2 million a month to affiliate fraud. And we were catching over 70% of their traffic to be fraudulent.
70%. I mean, that is kind of
70.
ridiculous considering the high amount of CPAs that are being paid, especially in like hot regions like Canada and other emerging markets. To think that 70% of the traffic coming through iGaming programs is potentially fraudulent is really scary, because it does make me think, where is that, how are we misappropriating budgets within this industry? Lee, I know you've got some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I mean, in iGaming, there's a couple of things that we do a little bit differently, which kind of leaves us a bit open to fraud. And one of them is using Skype. We don't necessarily always know who we're speaking with, which can be a bit of a problem. The other thing that we do in iGaming is we test a lot of new traffic sources. And Rich, you just said like networks, for example. Networks are becoming a bigger part of our affiliate mix. And so we're testing those out to see where we can gain new players, but it leaves us open to potentially being hit with that fraudulent traffic.
So talk us through some of the common problems that affiliate managers are facing. And Liana, I want to come to you first, because you're obviously out there doing deals, talking to lots of affiliates, managing client accounts. Like, what kinds of fraud are you seeing right now that, even though we do due diligence, it still passes through the cracks? And this is kind of why we have Rich on the call to talk about how to prevent that.
Well, there's the really obvious stuff, like you have an affiliate come through to you on Skype. Maybe they're using a fake name, or maybe they're using a very well-known name, but they've created a new Skype account and they try to get you to pay a fixed fee or a placement fee for your positioning. If you don't know who that person is, but you've checked the name and you think, oh yeah, this seems legit and they sound legit and they're giving a lot of what appears to be correct information, then you could fall into the trap of paying a fixed fee and they run away with that. We also see CPA frauds. So a lot of partners coming through who are going on a CPA basis, they will trigger the CPA with a player that puts in the minimum amount and then kind of goes away, never comes back to play again. And then you also have fraud from networks. So where you're getting a ton of traffic through, it's hard because you are getting so much to actually see what players are legitimate and which ones are not. So you might actually be getting legitimate traffic from those networks or larger partners, but you have to then kind of scrape out the traffic that is not legitimate or not real as well. So there's a few types that tend to be common, and there are things that you can do about those fraudulent partners.
Now, Rich, I know you always say fraudsters are smart. Talk us through some of the fraud that you're actually seeing come through. And I know there's like many different types that you kind of like outline when I speak to you. So give us the nuts and bolts of what that is and what it looks like, because some of the stuff that you've told me before, like I can't even believe that it's happening in the background. And this is what we really want to educate people on in the iGaming industry.
Yeah, so, well, going back to the CPA is a big one because, they can generate fake accounts that never come back, that get paid out before you really knows what's going on. So by the time you've identified that level of fraud through traditional means like following the money, following the back end data, damage has already been done. You already paid out and you're not getting any benefit for it. One interesting one, I did test with a company. This is the one that I mentioned that was losing $2 million a month in fraud. What was happening was they were driving in new players with a matched amount, like put in so much money, they were using stolen credit cards, putting in the money, getting the matched amount, playing a little bit, pulling money out of the system before they got caught.
And the thing is that that's so time consuming. because most affiliate managers, they need to go to their BI teams to actually look at the longevity, because some of this data isn't actually available in the tracking solutions that are being used for the programs. And so by the time you've done the due diligence, the research, those guys have like skipped off into the sunset with their fake credit cards, and that money is gone. So what does Anura do? Like, how does Anura work with operators to like mitigate this before it's even happening? Because, you know, they say prevention is better than cure. Like, how do you actually partner up with these businesses, and how easy is it to integrate Anura?
Well, again, when these visitors, whether it's the affiliate that you're working with, like, because again, you can vet them out and they're good affiliates. It's not necessarily not always them that are causing the issue. It might be where they get traffic from. So essentially, what we're looking at is the visitors that they're sending over to the site. If it's a bot, malware, human fraud farms, there's signs and symptoms that we can identify that, hey, this is not a non-legitimate user. They might be coming in to game the system. So again, they're going to try to hide themselves so they can't get pinpointed where they're coming from. If they're running a bot, it might be coming from, some type of advanced bots, some AI bots that are out there that are hiding in different ways. We can identify those people before they actually start creating the account. So before the damage is done, before they put their information in, before they get paid on a CPA, before they get paid on match dollar, like all that other damage that happens, we can identify them before they even put their first name into the system. So if you're an iGaming company and you can identify, hey, I've got a guy on my site about to create an account that I know is fraudulent, what would you do? Block them.
Yeah, you'd stop it. I mean,
Not
no
allow
doubt
that to go
about
through.
it. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that surprises me though is that people still think of fraud prevention as a way to stop them from scaling. And that's not actually true, because if you can stop the bad apples coming in at the first place, you can actually redistribute that funds to top performing partners that you do know are sending you customers. So how easy is it for an operator to actually implement Anura, and what are the like parameters that you advise clients to set so that they're managing the process of stopping the traffic that maybe isn't so good and that they don't really want, but also allowing the traffic that they do want to go through with minimal like disruptions? Like, how does Anura manage all of that?
Yeah, so for us, a first thing to deploy our software is a simple tag that they can deploy on their landing pages or their account creation pages. It's really quick and simple.
Yeah.
Heck, and you don't even need technical resources if you're using Google Tag Manager for tracking purposes, which most people do.
Yeah.
We're pre-built into Google Tag Manager, so deployment is simple. But what we do is when we identify a visitor as bad, and that's, a lot of companies in the marketplace will rank them from a 0 to 100, and they give you a score of like 80, and then you have to interpret that score and decide what to do with that, and creates false positives. And the last thing you want as a gaming company as you're trying to grow visitors is false positives, which is mismarking a real person, a real player, as fraudulent because you interrupt their buying behavior, and now they'll just go somewhere else. So for us, the first step that we take with people is we want to identify what percentage of bad they're dealing with and block those bad visitors, which we are 100% confident are not real. So for us, the biggest thing is our accuracy. We're 99.999% accurate when we identify somebody as fraud. The only company in the industry to back that up with case studies and prove that that's what we have. So which is important because you want to identify somebody as bad. You want to know for sure this is not Leanne is coming into the site and somehow we mismarked her. She's using a VPN and we mismarked her as a bad visitor. And now we're going to block her and kind of upset her in her buyer's journey into this iGaming environment. So we help them identify those visitors and basically prevent them from filling out the form. That's step one. And then we have a whole process of, okay, now let's look at some other areas, some other signals that we're seeing. Let's summarize the data based on the source of traffic, maybe by the affiliate or the sub-affiliate ID. Because if you've got an affiliate or a sub-affiliate that's got 80%, 90% fraud, do you really want to work with them? But having that data summarized in front of you at your fingertips helps.
This is the thing. I think there's a lack of education in the industry because we've grown so fast. There's a lot of account managers coming in and they're tasked with growth. Like that is what they are incentivized by. That's what they are judged by in their career. And so they sometimes lower the limits of, how do I act responsibly? How do I do best practices? And sometimes they're not even taught what simple best practices are. And that's why, tools like yours are important. But Liana, from your perspective, like what are some of the top tips that you can give to affiliate managers, to adopt a proactive mindset around managing fraud in their affiliate programs?
I think what you were just saying, Lee, is that it's more important to have a positive ROI than it is to have a large number of players come through. And that should be lesson number one for all affiliate managers. you can have a ton of players, but not actually be turning a profit. So then what is the point really? And if you, as an affiliate manager, are tasked with bringing in those big numbers of players, and you need to be bringing this to your management team, showing them the difference between when they are actually preventing fraud and what that ROI is versus the losses that could be seen when you're allowing fraudulent traffic through, you can make a great case study for yourself to say, I can't actually hit these player targets, but I can ensure that your affiliate program is healthy. Tools are very helpful. There are some things that you can do in the initial conversation as well. When you're speaking with an affiliate that you haven't worked with before, you can kind of check in on them a little bit. Go search them on Google, go check them out on LinkedIn, see if they have people in common with you on Skype. You can ask them to jump on a phone call. You can ask them to meet at a conference. You can make sure they're a real person and that they're not hiding from anything before you go ahead and make a deal. When you're testing a new traffic source, you can also place limitations on your test. So if you don't have the luxury of tools or a fraud department to back you up, a very robust fraud department, you can test the traffic sources with a smaller test that has a cap on it, especially when doing CPA deals. But any type of deal, you can say, listen, let's run this for a month, or let's try this up to this number of players. And then you have the luxury of checking that traffic afterwards to see how it's performing. So you can certainly put some manual processes in place, but as Rich said, that's not necessarily going to catch everything. And when you can be 99.999% accurate, you kind of want that instead. So also, going to your management team and saying, listen, there's tools that can help us turn this ROI from being great to being amazing. You should do that. You should take that forward.
Rich, when you're talking to customers initially, what are their main concerns? Because I know you've worked with a number of iGaming clients, which is why we brought you on here. What are some of the big questions that they're asking you, and how do you overcome those kind of concerns or challenges to actually explain how Anura works?
Well, a lot of people that we've spoken to in the past have tested other solutions in the market and have found issues with accuracy.
Yeah.
And I tell the story a lot. We all live in a society where we buy software and just expect it to work, right?
Yeah.
Every one of us uses, let's use Excel, for example, in our day-to-day lives. And you plug some information in, you put the formulas in, and it spits out a result, and then you make business decisions based on that result.
Yeah.
When was the last time we went back and checked to make sure Excel was doing the math right? Usually we don't. We just expect that if I say this plus this equals this, it's supposed to spit out the right number.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to my industry, fraud detection, people just buy the software and listen to the sales rep and expect that it's going to do its job. But what we're finding is that when these people come to us, they've had issues where, hey, I deployed this other fraud solution and it's blocking real visitors, phone's ringing off the hook. We don't know what the heck's going on. How can you prove that you're accurate? And I love that question. So what we do is we run a free trial. We tag the ones that we know are bad and let them do the back end research behind the scenes to prove that our data is accurate. And once they get a chance to actually see for themselves that we didn't block a single real person, that's when they say, okay, let's work together. And that's one of the biggest concerns that people have, is that they want to deploy a tool, but they don't want to hurt the volume of real users, and they want to make sure they're blocking the ones that they should be blocking. And that becomes an issue because, like Leanna was saying, one thing you can do is you vet out your sources. But let's say you get a legitimate affiliate and they're like, hey, I'm going to do programmatic advertising. I'm going to be buying from the trade desk, right? This is where I'm going to be getting all my traffic from. Well, the trade desk has 50% fraud.
Yeah.
Every programmatic exchange that I've tested has 50% fraud. So meanwhile, the person is a good individual and you'll vet them out and they're going to do everything right. And they'll give you transparency to the campaigns and everything. It's where they get their traffic from, which becomes problematic. It doesn't matter if it's Google, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or X, wherever.
It's
right?
everywhere.
It's everywhere. So it just doesn't matter where they're getting it from. Even email marketing. Oh, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. So, and then the other thing that I look at too is if you have somebody who's trying to defraud you, what they first do is one of their tactics is, let me send the good traffic first, get approval. But once I've gotten approved, then all of a sudden I get access to the bigger campaigns and a bigger budget. Then let's send in the fraud. And what they do is they do it, like I said, they do it smart. They send a little bit at a time, until somebody starts complaining. And then they know their sweet spot of what they can send without getting caught. And they just replicate that.
It's less about being vigilant. It's more about being protective. Fraud needs to be considered as profit center, which is something that you've said before. And as digital marketers or affiliate managers, our responsibility is to make sure that our company's budget is being spent efficiently. So whilst, I think any boss on the planet would rather have quality customers than volume of customers that aren't really repeat buying or repeat depositing. I think it's important that affiliate managers start to realize that they can't actually stamp it out with menial checkpoints. And even though you do your very best to do that, as you said, the traffic is coming in from Lord knows where, and 50% of that might be fraudulent, even though the affiliate is, genuine in their desire to want to work with you. So I do want to caveat that, because when we share this, fraud is a hot topic. Everybody's sensitive about it, but we're not saying that all affiliates are fraud. What we are saying is you need to level up the playing field, and that you need to actually have tools in place to start to track and measure this if you want to be responsible with your budgets. So another question that I wanted to ask is, preventative measures for scaling safely. Is it a case of, and you see a lot more data than what we see across multiple different markets. Is it a case of, if you don't have a tool in place, you're actually leaving money on the table? Is that where we're at right now?
I look at it this way. I've talked to companies that are like, look, they're smart, intelligent people, and they want to build it in-house because they know fraud's out there and it's important to them. And I look at them, I say, okay, what's it going to take? Like, what do you have in place to do this? Well, we've got, 2 team members that have been doing this for a couple of years. They understand what to look for. We've got, a big database, a data lake of all the data we're collecting. We were running this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, so add up all that expense, right? And then look at what you're spending a month. And now look at what a company like us can provide to you for a fraction of the cost, with access to significantly more data, which means we're finding more fraud, because we're looking at not just your account, but we're looking at hundreds of clients' accounts, and we're able to find more fraud because of that. So like I said, when it comes to that kind of side of thing, they're leaving money on the table. Either they're trying to do it themselves in-house, and they're either successful or not successful at it, but it's very costly, or they're fearful on bringing on certain sources of traffic because they don't know. Maybe that source of traffic has good traffic. And that's another thing that our tool can help is, hey, this affiliate's bringing in 95% clean traffic. Hey, you want to get more traffic from this person because everything looks good, and your back-end data should match that. So where you might be a little iffy on, like, it comes time you're vetting out an affiliate and you're like, I'm kind of on the fence. Wouldn't it be nice to know for sure exactly what the traffic quality looks like, and then make that decision?
And there's no obstruction to the affiliate, right? There's, just for people that are tuning in, there's no obstruction to the affiliate. Like, you having a fraud detection tool on your website bears no relevance to how the affiliate's conversion rate will be affected or anything else, other than if the traffic is tagged as being fraudulent.
Well, if it's fraudulent, then you'll be able to have a serious conversation with the affiliate and say, hey, we caught 25, 30% fraud on your network. You need to clean it up. You need to go, and maybe there's enough data in there. You can say, hey, these sub-affiliates are driving 90% of your fraud. You need to stop working with them, or at least I don't want their traffic anymore, but I'll take the other guys. You'll have to have those meaningful conversations. And again, having the data behind it to back you up is going to make that world of a difference, because that gives you a working relationship. Because with your affiliate, if your affiliate's got multiple sources and you can identify 1 or 2 that are no good and a handful that are really good, you can actually grow the volume.
When you're a smaller team as well, you're leaving money on the table because your team is busy looking for fraud instead of bringing in new partners, right? If you have to do everything manually and you have to be searching in the back end, contacting your payments department to see what's going on, contacting your BI team and requesting reports, when you're having to go through all of that, you are now leaving money on the table because you're not able to focus on bringing in those good partners. And as you said, with networks, it's very common for us to work with a network, find a couple of publishers who we just really know are not the best ones for us, and have to go back and have the conversation. But if we could do that faster, if we could do that better, then we could work with more networks without having to worry that the traffic isn't going to be quality. We could test it out. We could make sure that the publishers we like are bringing us that value.
All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. It was a great rapid fire interview. Lots of nuggets of wisdom. I'm still reeling from the shock of 70% of your traffic could be fraudulent. We need to get on it, and we need to help people to get access to this. You can download a free trial of Anura, like Rich said. We'll put a QR code in the content piece that we're sharing here for you to access that. It costs you nothing to do it for free, to check what's coming in, and your mind might be blown by what you think you're paying for. So, Rich, thanks for being on this rapid fire our interview with myself and Leanna talking about a really hot topic, which is fraud and fraud prevention. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.